So you walk into Sephora, grab a handful of those paper scent testers, and you proceed to try about a dozen different fragrances. Now between each test, you've cleared your nose with the coffee beans provided. And it's at this point, gentlemen, if you're looking for a signature scent, I'm here to tell you, you are doing it wrong. So first up, the coffee bean thing. If you walk into Ulta, Sephora, any place that sells fragrances nowadays, you're going to find sometimes next to the fragrances a container that has coffee beans that if you ask somebody working there why, they're going to say, well, the smell of coffee helps clear the nose. This allows you to test tons of fragrances at the same time. Now, to be fair, most of these associates are well-meaning, but the coffee bean thing is complete bullshit. So the history on it, apparently there was an article done about a famous perfumer, and the writer was in his lab and saw that he had coffee beans. She asked why he had them and whether it was a joke or whether or not he really believed it. He said he used it to reset his nose. Well, this information got out, and a few companies, in an effort to sell more, started putting coffee beans on the shelf and telling their clients about this method. Well, I'm here to tell you, there is no basis in science for this. In fact, if you understand scent masking and olfactory fatigue, the only thing coffee beans do is overpower your nose with a very strong scent. No, if you want to reset your nose, step outside for 15 minutes and just breathe fresh air. And speaking of olfactory fatigue, that takes us to the second mistake, thinking you can smell, interpret, and make a decision on more than a handful of fragrances. In fact, if you're just getting started, you're not a collector, I would never recommend testing more than 2 to 3 fragrances at a time. Seriously, for most guys, if they want to test fragrances, I recommend spraying one fragrance on one wrist and another fragrance on another wrist, and throughout the day, smelling them and seeing which one you like best. I know some advanced users out there would recommend the inside of the elbow or maybe one spray in the chest area. I'm assuming though you're like me and you like to keep it simple, just go with 2. Now the reason is, unless you've got a trained nose, you oftentimes don't know what you're looking for. And yes, you can train yourself in the olfactory arts, and it's amazing once you start paying attention to it, how many different smells you can pick up. In fact, there are some perfumers that have tens of thousands of fragrances memorized. But for most of us, once we've got 1 to 2 fragrances around us, we start to develop what is known as olfactory fatigue. This is when you become accustomed to the scent around you and you don't pick it up anymore. I know when I would go visit my grandmother, she's old school Mexican, she would have beans that had been sitting there for like probably 2 weeks on the stove, cooking, always adding more beans to it, tortillas and stuff. It was a very strong smell, great smell when you walked into the house. And you smell it when you walk in. But what happens after you've been in there 15 minutes? You don't smell it at all, but you end up coming out smelling like beans and tortillas. My point being is we stop being able to smell things after a set amount of time. And this was actually an evolutionary response to us becoming accustomed to what is around us, so then we can pick up a unique scent whenever it introduces itself. And again, to break out of olfactory fatigue is to step out of that situation, get some fresh air, and within 15 minutes, your nose will reset itself. Now, the third mistake you don't want to make if you're looking for your signature scent is to walk in and to spray fragrance on paper and think that's how it's going to smell on your skin. You see, skin and paper, 2 very different things. First up, your skin has a bit of a chemistry to it. Not only does it have a pH balance, but it also is going to have a little bit of oil, a little bit of sweat. It's going to have residue on it. It has its own unique scent. So it's safe to say even the most common fragrances out there, when worn by different men, by different people, they can sometimes give off a different scent because they're being mixed with a different base. And right with that, you've got temperature. If you're wearing a fragrance right after a workout, if you're wearing it when you wake up first thing in the morning, or coming out of a hot shower, you may find that the fragrance smells slightly different. And of course, as many of you guys know, most fragrances nowadays are not linear, meaning a scent is linear if it smells the same throughout. But most fragrances are going to have a top note, middle or heart notes, and base notes. What this means is a fragrance has a life cycle. So if you just smell it on paper, you're just smelling the top notes. But when you spray it on your skin and you smell it throughout the day, you may find what you smelled at the beginning is not the same as what you're smelling 3 to 5 hours in. And this is really important if you're spending good money on a fragrance, because you want to, oh, do I like the base? Do I like those woody notes? Do I like those deep, rich notes that start to appear? And if you do, you may find, hey, I wouldn't have given this fragrance a second look, but I love the way it developed. Or you may find, hey, I love that top note, but it's gone within a minute. Oh my gosh, I really don't like where this thing went. The point being, if you're going to test a fragrance, test it on your body. That's why they call them testers. That's what they're there for. Now, if you're at the airport, don't go all crazy and spray all over the place. No one likes to be in a confined spot with someone that's choking them out. So what are the steps to discovering your signature scent? Well, step number 1, unless you want to waste a lot of money, is to learn the basics. of fragrance. Now guys, I've made this easy. I've created tons of infographics that not only break out things like all the different concentrations, I've also created entire infographics breaking out all the flankers and particular lines because I know this stuff can get confusing. And if that's not enough, I've created infographics specifically for almost every fragrance, or at least the popular ones out there. Because let's face it, when you hear fresh, citrus, aquatic, gourmands, sweets, florals, over time you can definitely start to learn this stuff. But being able to see this stuff in charts, that sure makes it a lot easier. And guys, all of this is free over in my Brotherhood of Scent. This is the best community out there when it comes to men's fragrances. I created it. I am passionate about men's fragrances. It's absolutely free. All those infographics, there are friggin' courses in there if you want to better understand fragrance. And they're simple, they're easy, and I've got a no asshole policy, so everyone in there is cool, everyone in there is nice. And that's important because as you can see here, we've got a full-on community where you can go in and ask questions and actually get really good responses, quick, and get some great details. If you're looking for where to get the best deals, if you just want a personal recommendation, or you want to share your opinion or a win, you wore one of your favorite fragrances and you got 3 compliments. Yes, they were all from the same person. The point is you can share these wins over in the group. So gents, I'm linking to the Brotherhood of Scent. It is down in the description of today's video. Again, an amazing tool I've created for you guys because I'm passionate about fragrances and I want to help more men get into the fragrance game. So once you've got some of the base foundational stuff, and I don't think you need to go too deep, now you want to start looking for patterns. So as human beings, the ability to spot patterns, this is something we're really good at. It's also why we've got all these conspiracy theories, such as if you can pull off Alien Man by Mugler, you are not from this planet. But seriously, I'm not going to recommend that one for a signature scent. It's a difficult fragrance for most men to wear. But what you will notice with patterns is if you go watch a whole bunch of other YouTubers, which I recommend Michelle, Ash over at Jet Scents, you can go check out Monica, you got Dallas over at Chaos, Nate over at Paragon, Justin Copeland, Mr. Smelly. If you're into niche fragrances, check out Marcello over at the Niche Fragrance Collector. And of course, the king, Jeremy Fragrance, especially pre-COVID. Yeah, some of his latest videos, I don't know where he's going with those. But my point being, if you watch a bunch of these top 10 videos and you see a pattern of a fragrance that keeps popping in to top 10s again and again, and if this fragrance isn't sponsored, which by the way, nothing against sponsored fragrances. I mean, I've done tons of sponsorships and I only talk about fragrances that I genuinely would recommend. So if you're blind buying, when you see a fragrance that consistently pops up in these lists, take note because this is one you want to get your nose on. Now, gents, if you're looking to buy fragrances online, you want to make sure you get the real deal. If you're looking for niche, hard to find fragrances, then you want to get over to Max Aroma. Fragrances like M. Micallef. I've talked about the original Desire Toxic. This is the new Desire Toxic Intense. It's an aromatic, warm, spicy, green citrus fragrance that's very unique. As some of you guys know, I don't normally like a cannabis note. This thing is blended beautifully. And gents, I'm telling you, if you're looking for some of the best fragrances on the planet coming out of the Middle East, check out the Spirit of Dubai. Right here, as you can see, I've got Boz Queer, an amazing fragrance, a little bit complex, or maybe you want something slightly different, check out Abjar Bois. Absolutely beautiful packaging, absolutely beautiful bottle. And what I love about the Spirit of Dubai, these guys know how to blend notes. And on a personal note, the fragrance I'm wearing today, check out the house of Ojar, specifically Wood Whisperer. This is a woody powder amber fragrance with a really clean, woody, powdery smell that gets compliments. And besides Wood Whisperer, if I were to recommend any fragrance for a blind buy, check out M. Micallef's Red Colorado. You got the pines with the woods. It's a very simple yet complex, absolutely beautiful fragrance. And the best thing about Max Aroma is you can get samples before you buy a full-on bottle. Down in the description of today's video, I'm linking over to Max Aroma with the best deals you're going to find on the web. Now, if you're really wanting to keep costs down, you need to go in and test fragrances. I know me, even a small town, we've got Ulta, we've got Sephora, and I always make a point when I'm traveling to stop in at the duty free and test all the options they've got there. In addition, a while back I was in Orlando and all of a sudden I find that there is a niche perfumery and I talked to my wife and I'm like, hey, we got to stop here because hey, we can write the whole trip off. But seriously, I probably spent 2 hours in that place and it hurt my pocketbook. But I'll tell you, gents, nothing beats actually getting in there and talking with someone that knows a whole lot about fragrances. And if they don't, you come in armed with some information because, hey, I'm going to try that Aqua di Gio. I'm going to get my nose on Creed Aventus or this particular Parfums de Marly. Everyone's saying that this is the Tom Ford you need to start with. So once you get your nose on it, you can start, you really get to make an honest assessment for yourself. And again, remember the key here is to try it on the skin. You notice what's happening here. If you don't want to spend much money, it in general is going to take more time to actually test and find fragrances. So you got to understand, finding your signature scent, this could take months. However, if you're in a hurry, if you are a gambling man, if you want to just, hey, I'm going to make this happen, then go ahead and look at blind buying. I know very few people that truly blind buy. Most of us, when we're out there buying, we've watched tons of reviews. We're like, in general, I trust that this influencer or this person is giving me solid information. I'm seeing in general, it's got really good reviews. You go over to Fragrantica, which by the way is an amazing website. They've got tons of information. I really like the fact that they're bringing in AI and they're actually going through all the comments and they're giving you the summary right there at the top on a lot of these fragrances. And of course, it's far from perfect, and you're going to find a lot of the fragrances that are polarizing are going to have lower reviews than ones that in general everyone seems to love but really don't stand out. So it may not be the best platform for finding something unique and amazing. But again, for the guy that's just starting off, it is a great place to start, especially if maybe you got your nose on Creed Aventus and you're like, okay, I need to find something that's a little bit more affordable. I'm a student, or, I've got a tight budget, or I just simply want to be able to wear a fragrance and not worry about spending $400 to $500 for a single bottle. Well, in that case, you're going to find that there are tons of clones of some of the most popular fragrances out there. Understand that there is no perfect clone. They're all slight variations. Pretty much every perfume house, they keep their mixtures very tightly guarded. But some of these clone houses, I'll tell you, they get really close. And if you've worn the original and you wear a clone, you're like, you know what, this is good enough, I like it, then hey, go for it. I personally don't have an issue with it. I mean, there is a study that talks about that if you're going for, a clone or a generic anything, it can affect your confidence because you never feel like you're good enough for the best. But the way to overcome this is to get a small bottle of the real thing and then just get bigger bottles of the clones. And yeah. And gents, don't be afraid of getting those smaller bottles. I know it's not as great of a deal, especially if you look at how much you're getting per ounce, but the reality is 100 mil, that will last you probably 2 years. And that's if you spray, there's like 1,400 sprays in a 100 mil on average. So even if you get a 10 mil sample and you spray like an average person, you're probably going to get 2 months out of that. If you are a heavy sprayer, you're not a sissy sprayer, as Michelle would say, yeah, she goes through 10 mil in an afternoon. But seriously, if you're just getting started, don't overspray. Again, when you're looking for your signature scent, it's better to be discovered than announce yourself.
But Curly, I've heard that fragrance should be discovered, not pronounced.
Do not listen to that nonsense.
And you're going to find that some fragrances, they really do project. Maybe you're used to relatively light fragrances, so you get your first oriental or niche fragrance that is beast mode. And I've made this mistake. I spray it like it's a fresh fragrance. Yeah, 3 sprays in the chest area, maybe 1 on each arm. I mean, this just happened to me a couple of months ago. My wife made me shower before coming to bed. She's like, this one is too much. I'm not loving it. Now, when you're looking for a signature scent, the most important person you want to impress is you. A lot of guys, when they first get into fragrances, they think they're wearing it for other people. They want to smell sexy. But here's the thing, is smell can have a huge impact on how you perceive yourself. There's a whole body of science of this called enclothed cognition. But I have found that certain smells can simply make you feel more confident, can make you feel better about yourself, can almost put you in the zone. Seriously, I've created a whole course that talks about olfactory conditioning and how men can hijack the olfactory system to be able to feel a certain way. But for the guy just starting off, believe me, you first want to make sure that you love the fragrance. After that, check if people around you like it. First up, your partner, then maybe your family, maybe other guys get their opinions. But at the end of the day, remember, you're wearing this for you. You are going to be around yourself and you want to be able to spray something on that just gives you confidence, that makes you feel like $1,000,000. Oh, and I almost forgot samplers. So a lot of times if you walk into a store, they will have samplers that they will hand out. Look for them, ask for them. Worst they're going to say is no. You'll find that they'll give you oftentimes a 2 mil, 5 mil, and these niche brands are usually really good with it. Now, what about discovery sets? So I find not all discovery sets are created equal, although the ones over at Max Aroma, like I've talked about, those things are freaking amazing. They got so many awesome discovery sets. Seriously, it's one of my favorite things about them. And again, I'm linking to them down in the description. But discovery sets, depending on the brand, you really want to look for ones that have options. And those are the best ones. They can set you back $30, $50, $100, $200. But if you're serious about finding the right fragrance, these discovery packs, they come with 5 mil, 10 mil, sometimes 15 mil samples. Guys, this is seriously one of the best ways to go if you want to find the right fragrance for you and be able to take the time to do it. Now, this next tip, really important, but the majority of people do not do it. And that is, when you're testing and you're wearing a fragrance, especially if you've got 5, you've got a sample set with 10, write down or just record yourself talking to the camera what you think of the smell. how you feel about it. Because here's the deal. Over time, as you get into this hobby, you're going to find that your impressions, your thoughts are going to change as your knowledge of the subject matter improves. In addition, our memories are really bad, especially when it comes to fragrances and we're just getting started. So you want to make sure you've got those notes, especially when you've only got samples that are maybe 1 mil or 2 mil. That's only going to be enough for maybe 2 to 3 wears. And you don't want to waste that wear without taking careful notes on how this makes you feel and which ones you're really drawn to. All right, so you've zeroed in on one, you're looking to make the purchase. Look at all the different bottle size options out there. 30 mil, 50 mil, 100 mil, 200 mil. Yes, those 200 mils can be a great deal, but you're making a big bet. And 200 mil is going to last most guys about 4 years. The reality is most people are going to be served probably with a 50 mil. Even though, yes, per ounce, they're more expensive. I recommend you start there unless you are sure that this is your go-to fragrance. Then yeah, go ahead and get 100 mil. And if you fear they're going to discontinue it, maybe go ahead and get another. But seriously, gents, fragrances, if unopened, last a long time. But once you start to go through it and more air starts to build up in the bottle, it's that replacement of alcohol with air that causes the fragrance to start to break down. In addition, if you don't store the fragrance properly, you put it in a heat area, you expose it to light consistently. Yeah, all this can cause a fragrance to go bad prematurely, although that rarely happens. But if you want your fragrance to last a long time, keep it stored in a cool, dark area at a consistent temperature, and don't open it unless you're going to use it. Now, at this point, you could be zeroing in on a few fragrances that all of them could be signature scents. But here's the deal. You don't have to make a decision. In fact, I think most men are served by owning about 3 to 5 fragrances. Seriously, maybe you want something fresh, you want something clean for your daily wear to work, something sweet, something seductive whenever you're going out with your lady, maybe a clean citrus-based fragrance whenever you're heading out to the gym or you're going for a workout, maybe something higher end, elegant, sophisticated whenever you are getting dressed up to the nines and you want to feel like the man. The reality is, gents, once you get into this hobby, all of a sudden a whole new world opens up. And it's not just about wearing fragrances, but it's about understanding scent and how it's an underappreciated human experience that now you have a better understanding of. Seriously, I was at a business conference the other day meeting with a female associate, and she gives me a hug, and immediately I smell her fragrance. It's either Baccarat Rouge 540 or Ariana Grande's Cloud. Based off the fact that she's a professional, I assume she's got a lot of money. I'm like, she's probably wearing Baccarat Rouge 540. I guessed it, and she was just shocked. She instantly says, "You know your stuff. No wonder you're so good." And I'm just laughing because Ariana Grande's Cloud is my daughter's go-to fragrance. So I know the scent profile really well, and I recommended it to her because she was out of her Baccarat Rouge 540. But the point is, in life, there are all these great, interesting things that we can get into. And smell, it enhances our taste. It enhances our ability to understand the world around us. So don't be afraid. Don't be bashful. Dive into this, have fun, and continue your viewing experience. Come on, guys. I got you covered. If you want to learn what not to do when wearing a fragrance, I've got you covered. I barely touched the tip of the iceberg of all the things you want to avoid. How to apply fragrance, guys. Boom. I got you covered right here. Go check it out.